センターポールの YouTube チャンネルということで、だいぶ間が空いてしまいましたけれども、今回はですね、前も告知したように、海外の、パラスポーツの関係者からお話を聞いてみようということで、インタビュー取ってきました。結構ね、1時間ぐらいでサクッと終わるかなと思ったんですけれども、2時間ぐらいで、これ大変だった自慢じゃないんですけれども、時差があってですね、もう凄まじい時間帯でこうインタビューをしなければいけなかったので、なんか結構頭も回ってない中で、なんかもうちょっと質問自体は準備してきたんですけれども、ああいうことも聞けばよかったんじゃないのかなっていうのもまあ振り返ったらあるんですが、パラスポーツの、海外事情についていろいろ聞いてまいりました。なので、ちょっとその様子をね、すでに VTR で、編集したものがあるので、この後お届けできればなと思います。じゃあ第1回目ということでですね、今回は、ニューヨークで、車椅子バスケットボールの、元選手で、全米選手権も3回優勝かなしていて、現在はですねジュニアの、パラスポーツのこう運動支援を行っている、アリさんにお話を伺ってきました。なので、その様子をお届けいたします。じゃあご覧ください、どうぞ。
My name is Toki. I run own company Center Pole. Center Pole is to support disability athlete and kids. Yes.
Yes. I've been following a lot of your work online, and I could see the growth.
Yeah.
You just added a couple of another Paralympic player, a Japanese guy, the amputee. So I've been seeing your awareness and what you're providing, and we have a very similar mission with our organizations. I mean, similar in the fact that we want to be providing hope and providing these opportunities for those of who are physically disabled. So very similar in that way, Toki.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. じゃあ、早速、僕たちのちょっと活動のところ、簡単にだけちょっと説明させてもらえればなと思うんで、ちょっとあさみさんサポートお願いします。
はい。
センターポールは、今、16人の、いろんな種目のパラアスリートを応援していて、活動の支援をしています。で、活動の支援だけじゃなくて、実際にそのスポーツの価値をこう発信していかなきゃいけないんで、講演会をやったりとか、学校に授業をやったりとか、あと子どもたちにそのパラスポーツを教えたりしてます。
Great, that's amazing. I love that your numbers are growing to have 16 athletes and providing awareness. And I'm sure Toki could agree with me in the fact that there's still such a lack of opportunity. There's so many kids and adults that don't know about adaptive sports. And in prominent cities and prominent towns, they don't have those opportunities. I wonder if that's similar in Japan than it is here, because what I'm seeing, I could see that he's finding all these athletes and they're not having those opportunities to play adaptive sports. And it's the same with over here, an hour and a half north of New York City. I'm an hour and a half north of New York City and doing something very similar to Toki. And there's just a lack of awareness and opportunity for a lot of kids and adults that are physically disabled to participate in adaptive sports.
なんかやっぱり。
ありがとうございます。I see. 今日、ちょっといろいろ僕も、なんかアリさんのなんかやってる活動のことを知って、日本で、まだパラリンピックとかパラスポーツのこととか知らない人とか、あと情報が全然ないので、アリさんの活動を日本でもこう伝えたいと思ってるし、あと逆に、if you have some question for me 質問があればなんかぜひなんかお伝えしてなんかすごいこの業界を良くしていきたいです。
The 16 athletes that Centerpole supports, are they all in the same town or the same vicinity that Toki lives in?
Okay, they live almost Tokyo City and next Tokyo City, but some athlete lives north side and east side. Yes, まあ結構バラバラですね。
Same city.
So, same city, but
good. And you have a gym that, and this is in Tokyo. Is it Tokyo?
So
We don't have gym, but we レンタルしてますね。僕たちはレンタルです。
And currently they have wheelchair basketball practice every week.
We do every weekend.
And has COVID affected your access to gyms there?
実はコロナのスポーツに関しては、まだ影響はそんなに出てはいないです。で、日本も明日から緊急事態宣言また、発令されるんですけれども、結構コロナで影響あるのは、なんか夜のそのバーとかの飲食店、ダイナーとか。
Very good, very good. I have two more questions.
Yes, sir.
One is your brand of center pole, along with supporting the Paralympic and the disabled athletes. Is it a clothing line? Is it merchandise? Is there another mission that you're a market that you're in also?
センターポール
ないですね。今、もうセンターポールの先ほどお伝えしたものだけで、まあ一応こういうのも作ったりもしてるんですけど、もう僕の趣味の延長線上です。toki.
Great. I think it's amazing what you're doing and branding out that mission you have with Centerpole. That's great. Thank you for sharing. Last question. When I first was a rookie playing for the New York Knicks, I played with a young man from Japan. He had to go back to Japan because his visa was up. We became very good friends. His name was Yusuke Makino. Do you know Yusuke Makino?
Yusuke, how old he is?
He would be in his late 30s now.
30代後半だと思いますよって今は。
多分今現役でやってない人かもしれないんですけど、ちょっと I will check して探し出します。
The other thing, how did toki get introduced into adaptive sports and that genre? I know that he is he's able-bodied. Does he have a family member or it was a friend? How did he get into it? That's my last question, I promise.
僕の周りに実は障害を持ってる人っていうのはずっとこの仕事始めるまでいなくて、で仕事始める理由になったのが、渡るさんって言って、イリノイ大で車椅子バスケプレーしていた人と出会ったのがきっかけで、なんかその選手のパラスポーツの魅力に感じて、はい、いろんな選手と会うようになっていったら、応援したいなと思ったのがきっかけです。
Sure, with the Japanese wheelchair softball team. When I played, we played against Japan in Biloxi, Mississippi.
Okay.
And I have a picture with the Japanese team. They beat us. But I have a picture. There was a nice group, and he was on that team.
Yes.
5 or 6 years ago. But I have a really nice picture with the Team Japan. Wheelchair softball is big over there. It's big.
Yes.
And
ぜひ来年ね、あれば、アリさんも来てもらいたいですね。
I would. Do they really? The world is up. You know, I'm not currently playing.
Okay.
Toki. And well, I'll explain. I'm retired from wheelchair sports. Really.
Okay.
I'm a little bit older than Moj. I'm a lot older than Dice and those guys. I'm 45 years old.
Okay.
And yeah, he's probably like, what? 45, you know. So I've retired from playing sports, but I would love to visit. I still do a lot of training and I play a lot. My passion is teaching and providing those opportunities for others. I don't need to win anything more in my life. I've already won. So I don't have that drive to play for like that. I've won, you know, so giving back is winning, and recruiting and finding people who don't have those opportunities is winning for me. So that's where I'm at in my career. But I would love to, trust me. One day I know that we'll meet up and I can still, anyway.
Yes, I will guide you. Yes, I will guide you and support you.
So
Our
you
Great.
guide.
guys, yeah, he'll be a tour guide.
I would love to, and you know, I'm still a top athlete, and I'm into. I work out a lot. I'm into a lot of lifting weights, and I still wheelchair tennis, and I still train weekly. But I would love to experience your culture one day. That would be amazing, and likewise here. I would love. Right now, COVID is crazy, but I know that the future is bright, and I would love to. Host toki here also.
なんか
I promise. I will go. I will go.
I live an hour and a half north of New York City.
ニュー
Okay.
ヨーク近いから来てねって。
Yes, sir. I cannot wait.
Great, great.
Yeah. Okay. First, please introduce yourself, background, and your current status with whatever sports you play.
Sure, Toki. My name is Faz Ali. More famously, I've played in the National Wheelchair Basketball Association for over 10 years with the New York Rolling Knicks. I have 3 Division I national championships. But I'm retired from wheelchair basketball in 2019 to run my nonprofit adaptive sports organization called Ali Adaptive Sports and Fitness. I'm also a father of 2 sons and a husband.
Good. Okay.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Currently, I'm not playing any sports. I'm coaching and training athletes in adaptive sports. So currently, I'm not playing any sports as far as on a team. I do play a lot of wheelchair tennis, recreational, wheelchair basketball, recreational, and do a lot of weightlifting recreationally.
OK です。じゃあ次いきますね。Please tell us about early adaptive sports. When and why did you start this organization?
Great, Toki. Great, Toki. Ali Adaptive Sports. I started this organization because of the profound impact that adaptive sports has had on my life. That impact was so positive. That's why I founded it. I founded Ali Adaptive Sports because there is no opportunity for physically disabled in my community to play adaptive sports. Okay, Paralympic adaptive sports. There's 2 genres of adaptive sports. The Special Olympic adaptive sports, those are cognitively disabled, and Paralympic adaptive sports, those who are physically disabled. In my community, it's everything is for the cognitively disabled athlete. Toki, after I got my leg amputated 20 years ago at the age of 24, I came back into this community and no one even mentioned adaptive sports to me. No one mentioned that I could play wheelchair basketball. I didn't even have a wheelchair for the first 7 years of my amputated life. I got my leg amputated due to a blood clot. I went back to work 6 months later as a physical therapist and worked in the same position for the next 14 years as an amputee. So I was amputated at 24, and that's kind of like my story. But the profound positive impact of adaptive sports in my life is why I founded this organization and wanting to share that with others. I feel like it was a gift for me, right? I had 7 years where I didn't even know that I was eligible, that I had this family all over the world. This family is Toki. Just because I played adaptive sports, now I'm friends with a man in Japan that believes in me, and that it's just the support and the hope that is provided in my life is why I wanted to provide that for others. I don't care about if you're going to be a Paralympic star or if you're going to be as good as me. I care that you try and that you have hope and that you're part of our family, right? I don't care about how great you're going to be. Who cares? Greatness isn't about how many shots that you can make in a basket. It's about life.
Okay, I see. 了解しました。ちなみにちょっと質問でないと思うんですけど、アメリカでもまだ結構そのパラリンピックのス ポーツとかって認知はまだ当時はそんなにされてなかったってことなんですかね。
I was working in physical therapy. This is back in the
That's
year
surprising.
2000, right?
Yeah.
I was already working as a physical therapist, right? I got my leg amputated. I came back to work 6 months later. I was the profile face in the community. No one mentioned adaptive sports to me. The wheelchair amputees don't use wheelchairs. I never even had a wheelchair in my home. Yeah, I even had a wheelchair in my home for 7 years. I went back to work trying to be this able-bodied man. There's pockets, enormous pockets in communities where they don't have the access to that. It's never been done because who's gonna buy all these wheelchairs and do that? Right? Unless you've been affected by it personally in your life, how can you share it? Yeah, so even then, this was in the year 2000. It's getting better, but not really. You know, I was at a big, and go ahead.
Okay. じゃあ次なんですけど、next, beside your organization, are there any group that provide opportunities for youth to train, experience adaptive sports in the States?
Absolutely. United States is such a vast place. Even though there's lack of awareness in a lot of communities, some communities have had adaptive sports for the past 50 years, 30 years. To name a couple, one out of New York City is called Wheelchair Sports Federation. And it's ran by an able-bodied man named John Hammer, and he supports wheelchair softball teams, wheelchair basketball teams. That's how I played wheelchair softball, was with Wheelchair Sports Federation. That's how I got to play with Team Japan. There's also so that's like one over in New York. So let's go out to the Midwest. There's Glasa, which is the Great Lakes Adaptive Sports Association, GLASA. That's another organization. There's something that's very prominent here called Challenged Athletes Foundation. That organization donates a lot of wheelchairs. DICE has got a wheelchair from them, I'm sure. Challenge Athletes Foundation. That's how I get all the grants for wheelchairs in my program, my organization. I help the athletes get these grants from Challenge Athletes Foundation. So yes, there are organizations and there are that support adaptive sports, but still a lack of awareness. Where I'm at,
そういう団体があって、多分、日本財団とか、多分そういう感じなんでしょうね、きっと。
over here, they're big. But even with all that, there's a lot of every kid in my organization that you've ever seen on social media, they didn't grow up playing adaptive sports. There's 16, 17, 18, 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds. Their first experience in a sport wheelchair was with our organization. So we're very proud to be bringing that to our communities. There's a lot of counties around here where that's not happening.
も多分一緒なんでしょうね。Okay. How many people does 何人ぐらいこう来てるんですかね、アリさんのクラスには。だいたい実施の頻度と人数と。はい。
We were heavily affected by COVID. We were meeting every week for group. And then I was doing private trainings. I had a brand new gym. The gym got shut down because of COVID. Usually we're meeting weekly for wheelchair basketball. And then I'm doing private trainings in between there for fitness. Currently I'm running a wheelchair tennis program that I got funded from the United States Tennis Association that meets on Sundays. And my grant for that allows me to give about 15 sessions. So it runs up until March. So right when the gym closed for that, I had already been planning my wheelchair tennis, which is great. right?
Mhm.
As far as numbers, the numbers fluctuate all the way
Okay.
up to 10. You know, participation can be tough because of rides and transportation and family support. Some of these families, so you know how it is with family support. So anywhere from, you know, I'm doing private training, or on we could have 10 athletes at a group wheelchair basketball session. We're currently in tennis. This Sunday we'll be doing tennis, and I have 5 athletes coming for tennis on Sunday.
前後しちゃうんですけど、そのジュニアのスポーツの参加に関して、リストでも書かせてもらったんですけど、多分移動の問題とか経済的な問題って結構あるかと思うんですけど、そういうのって皆さんなんかこうどうしてるんですかね。
Transportation is up to the family. Family has to provide transportation. When I'm doing private training, there is a bus here in town that could take up over 18 athlete that I'm setting up. So that's challenging. You know, I tried to offer our group programming free of charge. But I've been donating a lot of my time, and I'm not making my budget. You know what I mean? I'm able to bring funds in, but I'm working all the time, and I'm not able to really pay what the position as adaptive sports coordinator and executive director of my organization, I'm unable to pay that full salary. But I'm new and newer. I've only been doing this for 3 years, and we're an official nonprofit. So it's very challenging, you know, recruiting the money, especially when you're doing what I'm doing. I'm recruiting the money, and I'm delivering the services and taking care of the equipment and coordinating everything. So
you're everybody.
Yes. Okay. Yes. So to do that, be that one-man show can be challenging. So recently I took in a private donation, which was great. It was several $1,000s. There are grants here in town, the Orange County Youth Bureau. I was able to get Make a Difference grant from them, which is several $1,000s, $5,000, right? And some of the services, when you have spina bifida here, you get money from the government for services. So my athletes with spina bifida get an allotted funds that they could pay me for private training.
I see.
So, but that's for private training, right? So when I go train privately for weightlifting, that's coming out of those funds. But only those with like spina bifida and those developmental disabilities get that. Amputee is not getting that, you know, but they're getting that
too. I think so too. Yeah. 多分、僕たちも多分今東京2020があるんで、結構今いろいろ助成金だとか補助とかもあるんですけれども、多分そこは東京オリパラ終わった後は課題として残るんで、ちょっと僕たちもしっかり今2020終わった後も継続できるような仕組みでちょっと今頑張って作ってるような感じですね。
Good, very good. That the sustainable system is what you would want, and even I thought about partnering with some organizations here because it would sustain the program. You know, where I may have to give up my the name, and it would just be adaptive sports through them, but it would be sustainable. But you know, I know in the United States, these to make it successful, once you get one grant, you most likely get it the next year, right? So next year, I already know I'm getting these 2 grants, and then I go on from there. So I've been building a good little, you know, but without being able to have events here, I raise money from events, and we can't have events here because of COVID. So that shut down a lot. I always raise money from events. I'll have these inclusion walks where I'll have all of our athletes and their families and people from the public, able-bodied, not able-bodied, and we take an accessible trails through the woods, scenic areas, and you know, I could raise money through those, but right now, no. But sustainable, that's great. I wish Toki luck with getting that. I'm sure it's going to be a lot it's going to happen. That sustainability of it, you know.
なるほど。日本は結構寄付の多分あれが考えが逆が多くて、設備資金に対してお金をなんか出すっていうところが多くて、寄付も。なので、なんかその運転資金っていうか、運転資金にしちゃうとそれ途切れた後継続できないよねっていうので、日本はそもそも寄付文化ってアメリカに比べたらない方だと思うんですよね。だからちょっとやっぱそこの違いとかっていうのがちょっとなんか結構ビジネスライクなのかもわかんないですね、日本の寄付っていうのは。
That's an enormous difference. Oh my goodness. If toki could see how it is over here when the nonprofit and how much money is just sitting around for nonprofits, it's very challenging to get. But he would be amazed. He would probably think that he probably think I have it easy because there's this enormous culture of donating here in the States. Enormous, where he would have this pool of other people like him. He would probably, I almost feel like I got to get my butt in gear more because he would look at what the opportunity I have and be like, I know they would, because I never knew that there wasn't a culture of donating in Japan.
No.
That changes. I mean, that's all America. Come on, you know how it is over here with that. It's like, and then not to have that, that's amazing. Not, he would think I have it easy. I got to start working. Yes. Yeah. Yes. You know what? Tell him, what's also challenging is he was saying that the government wants to pay for the facility. Here, a lot of times I'll get donations and they don't want to pay what I make. So I have to accept the money to get equipment. I just took in $1,000 donation. $1,000 is great, but I have to put it towards a hand cycle. The donor, I couldn't get the donor. The donor's not going to give you the money for programming expenses to pay me to deliver it. So I don't want to turn the money away. So, okay, I'll put it towards this $3,000 hand cycle. So there's a little bit of that going on too.
まあ、本来であれば価値のあることをなんか提供してるから、アリさんが給料でやっぱりね、いいことをやってるっていうか、正しいことやってる人がお給料でやっぱり高くもらうべきだなとは思うから、やっぱそこは難しいですよね。
Very much so. I've had a lot that happened quite a bit. They want to give it towards equipment. So, but we're going to make things. I think we're both inventing something in our community. A new way of that sustainability and finding that. So us being, I think the finished product down the line, it's going to both be successful, but we're making it from scratch, you know?
じゃあちょっとあと、4つ質問があって、ちょっとこれが今僕からする質問、まだ、これリストに入れてないんですけれども、アリさんの考えを教えてもらいたくて、僕は結構これ継続的な、ものにするために、まあ、クラスの参加費っていうのは、例えば、まあ、経済的になんかその支払える能力があるんであれば、同じように、スポーツクラブとか通うように、障害を持つ子供たちも、なんかその親が、お金をなんかこう支払えるようになんかしていければいいなと思っていて、で、まあ、それは、障害を持ってる人も持ってない人もちゃんと、フラットに同じ対等な目線で見ることで、まあ、社会に出てもそれ当然のことになってくるから、同じように扱うから、同じようにこう価値のあるものを提供するから、なんか支払うべきなのかな、なんては、今は思ってるんですけれども、ちょっとアリさんはなんか実際なんかどう思うのかみたいな。ちょっと
100%. Tell them that first. And then I'll tell them, I have two able-bodied sons that are good basketball players.
Okay.
They're able-bodied. They're 15 years old and 12 years old. You know how many thousands of dollars I pay a year for them to play basketball and travel and to go to training and for uniforms, right? Right? So, you have to be able to pay yourself, right? So hence the fact that private training, there's some private training that I was doing where you have to pay. My time is valuable. You're gonna, I pay for my kids to do it. Right? And no one can ever come and complain to me because I know how much an able-bodied parent pays for a kid. You don't run around playing free sports, but then there's a slippery slope. Of course, if the families have money, they have to pay. But if they're poor, you gotta use your fund, you gotta work something out, but I find that problem and I find that going up, here, if you have a nonprofit, you have to be, depending on your facility and what you can't charge for services depending on what you have worked out with your facility. I have all these different little things worked out. But absolutely, I agree with paying, because able-bodied kids and able-bodied kids, we pay. I got a 15 and a 12-year-old. It's a lot of money for sports. And especially if the parents have money, not money, but if they have the means. You're providing the equipment, you're providing the hope, you're providing the actual skill, and you're providing something that's not being provided anywhere else.
日本でも結構考え方が結構もうちゃんとお支払い、やっぱ同じように教育だから、パラスポーツをこうやれることに対しても、同じようにお金を支払うっていうスタンスの人もいらっしゃれば、中には、障害持ってるんだからやってもらって当たり前っていう思う人も結構やっぱり割合としては、まだまだいるんですけど、アメリカの、その状況って言ったら、親御さんの多分意識とか、その当事者の意識とかでもいいんですけど、どんな感じなんですかね。一概には言えないと思うんですけど。
Programs over here don't charge. And if they do, it's just a very small fee, right? Because there is the culture of giving. So I have the opportunity now, since we have this culture of donating, I have the opportunity to take those 16 kids that toki has and their inspirational stories and get people to donate money on their behalf. So that's all these programs I mentioned, you're not going to a group wheelchair basketball program and you're paying a fee. Okay. There's a team in New York City, a junior team, and they just needed to raise money, right? They have a free program. So they did the NWBA had this fundraising platform digitally and through Facebook. And in the matter of 3 weeks, they raised almost $10,000 because of the culture of the kids. But typically you don't pay, because we have it's a different culture, right? Like we're a nonprofit. That means we could go and you have to go after those monies. But I agree with a fee to be able to participate. But for those families that can't pay that fee, what can you pay? Because over here, when you get over here, I don't know if it's the same, but when you get things too free over here, people take advantage of it. They're less likely to come on.
お伺いしたいのが、ちょっと待ってくださいね。僕が作ってたやつって。お仕事とかって、今これ以外、僕は、実はこれともう一本、精神の障害を持ってる方の、支援施設をやったりとかってしてるんですけど、アリさんも、例えばその今のクラス以外も何か受け持ってやられたりとかしてるんですかね。
Right. Where's the future of it going? My dreams are to be into housing and job placement. Okay. Before I get to housing and job placement, I'm going after funds for recreation. That's a big thing over here, So we're going into the recreation. But I dream of one day having a group home, right? Where these athletes, because a lot of these disabled athletes live with their parents until they're adults, right? I dream of having a group home with amazing staff that are all positive, and you have 4 or 5 disabled individuals living there, right? And you're helping them with their job placement services and recreational services and athletic services. So I think down the line, I want to be going into that. But right now it's adaptive sports, and then we're going to go into recreation, and then we're going to get into that pool of jobs and stuff. But I think that's great that he's into that because there's a need for it, Yeah, and I think the sport platform, just what Toki is doing, is going to lead us to those connections and lead us to that. I think we're just too in the beginning phases of our missions to do that. But there's something big with the housing. You know, I like that. You can go after those funds. There's always those funds in those communities, and I think we could make an amazing house for athletes and disabled people to live in with high standards. You know.
いや、もう本当その通りでございます。じゃあちょっとこれがラストクエスチョンで、今後アリさんのクラスでなんかこうどんなことをなんかこうしていきたいとかあったりとか、あとなんかそのスポーツがその今話してくれたみたいにその成長になんかもたらす効果とか期待することがあればなんか最後に教えてもらえますか？これラストクエスチョンです。
Great. What do I want to do with the program in the future? I want to provide opportunities outdoors. Okay, so kids that have never been on a beach before. We have a beach day where we're all hanging out on the beach for the day. Kids who have never been to the lake, around the lake, or hand cycling through the forest. I want to provide that. I want to provide those camping opportunities and just those opportunities to be together recreationally through sport, but just through activity. And then I'll do the second one also. Recreation. The young athlete. Well, the young athlete, number one, we want to have hope. You know, anything's possible. You know, you're not alone. That's what I would want the young athlete to know, right? That Rue exists, that Dice exists, that you could travel to the United States and be some amazing athlete and be sponsored, or that the hope and the awareness. We want the young athlete to know that, hey, you could grow up to be like Rue, or you could grow up to be like Dice, and Dice went to the United States to Texas and here, and but that hope and that awareness, you know, I think most importantly hope, right? You could see where if you put in hard work where it could go, and for them to see disabled men and women that are affluent and intelligent with families. I think that's always a great to be able to look and say, oh wow, okay, this is possible, not only for the athlete but for the parent also. Right? That's, you know, there's this whole dynamic that's very healing for the parent to come say, oh, I'm not the only one. They have a kid that's like mine. They have a kid that's like mine. So that's what I want them to, we want to provide with those families and with the athletes, you know, but it always comes to hope first, because who cares how good you're going to be? I mean, great. If you're going to be like Dice and Rue, that's great, but most people aren't.
ありがとうございます。もうぜひ、なんか僕らもこうやって活動なんかやっていて、なんかアリさんみたいにもともとこうやっている人のなんか話聞けるのはすごい、心強くもあるし、だからぜひ、だからね、場所は遠いですけれども、なんか一緒になんか良くして、で、子供たちの交流も近い将来、なんかぜひ一緒にレクリエーションやりたいなと思っているので、ぜひなんか実現させましょう。
はい。ということで、ご覧いただきましたけれども、いかがだったでしょうか。前からアリさんのことはお話とかね、活動している内容とかっていうのは本人から少し、話聞いたりだとか Facebook でも活動内容とかってしてはいたんですけれども、実際にどういうふうにこう運営しているのかっていうのは今回のインタビューで初めて聞けたことなんかもありました。で、基本的に根本のところはその障害のねあるなしにもかかわらず、そのスポーツっていうその手段を使って子どもたちにこう選択肢をこう提供していくとかね、あと周り社会全体のその気づきをこう作っていくっていうのは変わらないのかなと思いました。ただ資金面の部分とかっていうのもかなりね文化が違うから、そのお金をどういうふうに調達してくるのかっていったところなんかは、すごい勉強になりました。これがじゃあ日本ですぐに同じじゃあ今回聞いた内容でじゃあ日本も寄付をこう募ってっていったら、多分これがうまくいくかどうかっていうのは話は別だとは思うんですけれども、海外でのね、いろんな各国の情報とかっていうのはね、やり方とかそこも工夫してとかアリさんの中でも多分文化の中でそこの環境の中で、活動していくためにはどうしたらいいのかって工夫されてる部分なんかもたくさんあるかと思うので、 また選手の目線だけじゃなくて支える側の目線としてこういった情報も発信できればなというふうに思います。で次回はですね、テキサス大学の、車椅子バスケットボール、ムービンマブスの、監督のお話を、インタビューも取っておりますので、そちらもお届けできたらなというふうに思います。じゃあ、センターポールチャンネル、今回のところは、こんなところでということになるんですけれども、よかったらチャンネル登録と高評価の方ぜひお願いいたします。それでは次回もお楽しみください。ありがとうございました。